Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories, where people conform to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for hitting the like button. The first story is called Take Down the Review. This happened to me a few years ago. I was owed a significant sum of money by the company that handles my doctor's billing. The reason they owed me money was because at first my insurance had told me they were not going to cover the appointments because the doctor was not in network. However, I had found the doctor from my insurance website. When I went back to check, the doctor's name was no longer listed on their website. Luckily for me, I had taken a screenshot at the time, so I could have the phone number for the doctor on hand. After I sent the insurance company the screenshots, they agreed to cover the appointments. They paid the billing company, yet the billing company refused to refund me the money I had paid. For months and months I tried via email and phone to get the money back, but each time I was treated rudely or ignored. They would either say they are still working on it or would act like I had never requested the money in the first place and needed to start the process over. It was maddening. One day, after receiving another rude email from this company, I decided to leave a Yelp review on my doctor's page. I essentially said that while the doctor and her staff were helpful and professional, the billing company they used was atrocious and made the entire experience not worth it. Lo and behold, the very next day I get a call from the CEO of the billing company. He asks what the problem is and I explain. He says, "Okay, I'll make sure the money gets sent ASAP. Could you please take the review down?" Apparently he was getting angry calls from my doctor and he seemed pretty pressured to get it taken down. I respond that I can take the review down after I get my money back. He gladly accepts my offer. 4 days later, there's my check in the mail. Here's the thing though. I never specified how long it will take me until I would take the review down after I get the money. So I wait a week. Get some calls and texts from the CEO. Ignore them. Wait another week. Respond that I'm having technical problems logging into Yelp but should have it resolved soon. After about 6 months of him reaching out and me being as unhelpful as possible, I finally took it down. The next time I returned to the doctor's office, it was a whole new billing system. Not sure if my review made a difference, but it was sweet malicious compliance regardless. The next story is called Can't Afford It. At the time of this story, I had just moved from a small village in Europe. When I had moved to Canada, I met up with others from my tiny area in Europe. Being from the same little country, we all became close. I had become friendly with our next door neighbor who was a waitress at a mid to high level restaurant in this town. She told me I should stop by, and so I did. I brought my friends along and it became a thing. 9 to 12 of us would come in and eat and be served by her. This happened at least once a week, every single week, often 2 times a week. I asked if that was okay, but she never seemed overwhelmed and we often caught her just chilling at the front desk once she was done with the initial plates. Again, we are not from a tipping country, so I initially was going to tip 15%. Then I was graciously informed by the host that an auto 18% tip was added to the bill for groups larger than 6. Okay, great, didn't have to figure out how much to tip. After almost 3 months or so of this, she stops by as I'm taking out my trash. One thing to know about her is that she seems nice, but also has no tact, and can have a bossy demeanor. She tells us she enjoys having us as customers and loves seeing us enjoy the food, but that we should be tipping 20% minimum. Heavy emphasis on the minimum. Also, good tippers would give at least 30%. I'm a bit stunned that of all the things she'd talk about, it was that. So I simply say, I am sorry, okay. She finishes off with her signature sweet smile and the words, "Sorry hun, if you can't afford to eat out, then you shouldn't be doing so." Now, if she was polite and said something like, "By the way, it's customary to tip XXX if we do a good job. I understand you might not know the customs here," then I would have understood. But many times I remembered she was inattentive as a waitress. We'd often have to flag her down after making eye contact when she'd just wait behind the counter. As I said, 20% was not out of the question. It was the way she said it. So I mentioned this encounter to my friends, and after a little talk, we realized we can't afford that. Not if we also want to be able to purchase other goods such as fine wines, cheeses we love and the like. We aren't poor, but not rich either. These weekly dinners were little luxuries that we splurged for the sake of friends and feeling special in a fancy restaurant. It didn't break our bank, but it was still a significant amount of money. To tip her properly, and the fact that we all realized there were other little things in life we'd rather spend our precious money on, we decided it was too much. Across all of us, it was hundreds of dollars in tips alone per week. That's a lot for us. We could use that money to rent a pool hall, fishing tours, which are very expensive, etc. So we did what any responsible adult would do. We stopped buying what we couldn't afford. It was far cheaper to host our gatherings at someone's house and do a potluck or make a deli board, etc. Now, discussing this with other neighbors, I hear that she has said something to that sort to other people in the neighborhood. Invite out to eat, then tell them off later if the tip is too low. They always have said the same thing, 20% minimum. Service wasn't the best, very hurried, not very attentive, etc. And the entitlement. So we stopped eating at the restaurant and having her as the waitress. I never stopped saying hi to her, kept up pleasantries, etc. But now, after we all of a sudden stopped coming in, she had a scowl on her face when she'd see me. Kept her responses quick and stopped saying hi as much. About a month after we stopped, I talked with one of the other neighbors. He mentioned to me how she was complaining that her tips weren't great anymore, and that she couldn't afford to get more fillers for her cheeks at the new medical spa down the road. Oh well, like you said, don't eat out if you can't afford it. The third story is called No More Working Without Pay. When I was 16, I worked at a fast food chain on a small island. Things are usually very quiet here. We'd make no more than £2,000 in a day, 11 AM to 8 PM. There's an event on the island that brings in a huge number of people from abroad, often doubling the island's population for a month. During the 2-week event, we were open until 11 PM with 1 hour at the end of each day allocated to cleaning and closing the store. During the event, there's a lot of drinking and a lot of people going for takeouts, so we get absolutely swamped. We even have to ship in staff from other stores in the UK to assist. We'd close the doors at 11 PM, but there would still be a huge queue of customers which could easily take over 30 minutes to get through. And then all of those customers are allowed to sit indoors until 12 AM when we can kick them out. But often we didn't want to pick a fight with drunks, so we let them leave on their own accord. As you can probably imagine, this makes cleaning the store impossible by 12 AM. The first night we were there until about 1 AM. The next night it was closer to 2 AM. When I asked the area manager about how we were getting paid for those extra hours, he said we don't. We were only to be paid until 12 AM, as that was our shift on the rota. I said that I don't want to be working 2 to 3 hours each night, morning, for nothing. He replied, "You stay until everything is cleaned like everybody else. If I find out you leave without properly cleaning everything, we are going to have a problem." I went home, talked to my parents about it, and we made a plan. So on my next shift it was chaos, busier than I've ever seen it. A queue out the door and halfway up the street. We weren't able to start cleaning until at least 12:30. The place was a mess and it ended up being about 3:30 before I called my mom to come to pick me up. I was wired on energy drinks just to keep awake, and when I got home I couldn't sleep at all and I was scheduled in for a 9 AM start in the morning. I slept for about 2 hours before I had to drag myself out of bed to get ready for work again, and operize pressurized fryers filled with 350 degrees Celsius oil. What could go wrong, right? The reason I called my mom for a lift home was so there was a record of it happening. I also stood near one of the cameras, so there was a recording with audio on the shop's CCTV. The law where I live clearly states that anybody under 18 is required to have at least 8 hours away from the workplace in any 24-hour period. That obviously didn't happen, so they broke the law, and my mom knew this. She called up the area manager to ask him what happened. He basically repeated what he had said to me, and she talked to him about the law, and that by informing him of it, it's now 100% his responsibility. So he would be liable for anything that happened during my shift, whether that's property damage, injury, etc. She also said she'd be reporting it to the equivalent of a union. We don't have unions here. He was used to bullying the staff here, as most were teens or young adults who were too scared to stand up to him. But he very quickly changed his attitude now that his neck was on the line. He called the local manager and told him to let me leave work for the day, with full pay, immediately, and as soon as it hit 12 AM on the next closing shift. He called the local manager and told him to let me leave work for the day, with full pay, immediately. And as soon as it hit 12 AM on the next closing shift, I was again ordered to go home, so no more working without being paid. Once the other staff got wind of this, they followed suit. This had another extra bonus for us all though, which was probably the sweetest part of this. Remember the staff they shipped over? Well, they all got early shifts so they could go out and enjoy the partying that went on while we were all stuck in work until 3 AM. They even had the cheek to come in because they had keys and have a dig at us about taking so long, which resulted in an argument and one of them crying. Anyway, the cleaning that we weren't able to do then became their problem when they arrived in the morning. This meant they had to either start earlier or work like crazy to get the shop open in time, or they'd face the wrath of the area manager. And now it's your time to shine. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories? I hope you enjoyed today's video. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.